I create sculpture to enliven both people and environment, with the belief that sculpture affects the senses and excites the soul. Through a geometric interplay of shape, texture, and color, my work depicts evolving stages of birth, growth, and liberation. I combine bronze, stainless steel, aluminum, mild steel, and wood elements into cathartic and explosive sculptures that embody an optimistic progression. The idea that there is an eternal life or energy all around us is presented abstractly through the use of energy containers, volumes, and frameworks, such as pipes, cubes, and pyramidal forms. The resulting sculptures suggest a spiritual life beyond themselves. They remind us that the divine exists in everything. I continue to create work with the understanding that sculpture is sensed or felt, that the medium stirs and arouses emotions and consequently improves the quality of our lives and our surroundings. Essentially, having been brought up in Paris has also inspired me living here in Boston. I have a hope that Boston will become an even more cultured city than it already is. I have a vision of Boston being filled with more public art, more architecture that really exposes the handiwork of all the craftspeople that do exist in the New England community, and that it would represent a lot of the history that we have here in the Boston area. I am a strong believer that art is a very important component of our world, that it invests society with culture. I think that I could have gone into many fields, but I find that art making is so challenging and rewarding that I feel that I have no choice but to make art. It is very challenging, but it's definitely quite a pleasure. I think that there's a lot to share and explore in the world, and I think that the role of the artist is to help people and society understand where they're living and kind of like why we exist here in the world.
This is Ryan Playground over here in Dorchester. I worked here as the artist in residence this summer. I was working with up to 65, 70 children, doing about, I guess, many different projects throughout the summer, working with the community and the children to create a lot of artwork, and we had a lot of fun. And as a result of working with the community and the children here, I was hired by Wallace & Floyd Architects through the Parks Department as the artist consultant, and I'm going to help create some permanent works with the community for this playground. And hopefully construction will begin here in August, as long as none of the budget cuts slow this down. But it should all go through, and we're really excited about it.
Having pieces in the public is important because people experience that artwork in a much more visceral manner, in a much more passive way. They're not told that they have to understand it in a certain way as they would if they were experiencing it in a museum setting. I think that as people are heading into work, that they pass by a sculpture or a mural, and they don't always stop and take note of it, but they really do experience it every day. And over time, it really does affect their presence, their entire day, they're going to work. I also create a lot of artwork for people's, well, I think that art in general is very important for people's environment. I'm a strong believer that we need a lot of artwork around us to inspire us on a daily basis. So I really enjoy working on commissions. I've worked with a lot of designers, and designers come to me looking for work for projects that they're working for, and sometimes they'll give me an idea or a feeling that they're looking to create in an environment, and I design pieces that really come from me, but that will also suit their needs. So it's really fun for me to create paintings that I know that people will be living with and be hanging on their walls or over their bed, as much as I hope that my sculptures will do that. People have a harder time. I guess it's not part of our cultural heritage to have sculptures around us in our home. A lot of people are used to seeing sculptures in a museum setting. I really feel the need to constantly have art surrounding me. I think of them as a power source, as something to look at, to inspire me, to get me going on my day. I'm drinking my coffee, I'll just meditate on a sculpture. It'll give me energy, and then I can move forward on my day and work on other things, on other projects. Or I can really have my day brightened by looking at a beautiful painting. And I'm then able to deal with maybe a difficult day or a difficult situation in my day. But I have something beautiful around me that reminds me that there is always beauty in the world around us, and that that's just very important to me. To remember that every day, no matter how difficult life is, that it's also a wonderful world that we live in. And I try to create art, and whether it be sculpture, painting, etc., that reminds us that the world is a wonderful place, and that we have a wonderful life that we should all enjoy, and that art is there to be enjoyed, and also to entertain us, to make us laugh, to make us smile, and also to think about difficult things in our life. But I try to think of things always in a positive way. Well, although I do consider themes of life, death, and basic human existence, I do pay closer attention to the periods of growth, change, and progress in our lives. And I try to create work that represents those moments when we experience growth, change, and progress. I, like many other artists, whether it be those who create more formal sculpture, painting, or photography, film, etc., or now installation art, etc., there's so many different arts and so many things that are art, and so many jobs that are artistic and creative. I hope, again, jumping back to public art, which is something that I care so much about, I hope that things such as public art can propel people to be more creative in their work. When they go to their workplace, that's something that they never thought of before, or just inspired them and kind of changed their world, gave them a new outlook on life, and gave them a new outlook on the work that they do, which would help them to create better work in their workplace, whether it be in creating a new factory product, or dealing with a new data system, or whether it be even mathematically based. I think it allows people the freedom to think in a much more creative manner, to have these creative things around them. For example, in these pieces, I'm thinking about cathartic moments in my life when I decide to make drastic changes, or certain things come into my life and cause my life to change. And I try to think of those moments and capture that moment, and so a sculpture almost becomes an equivalent to a certain situation or a feeling or an emotion. For example, my sculpture, The Hatching, I think the title in itself really just denotes my feeling of I was just kind of growing into a new person, and it was just the birth of a new being, and there's this central soul kind of energy that's in that central square of the sculpture, The Hatching. So that piece, it seems like a kind of an extension from a certain point in my life, but into a more positive situation, hopefully. As we move forward, hopefully we're moving into more positive situations. My other piece that's right next to me as well, Crescendo, is very much about a similar thought or feeling, something kind of coming through and abruptly changing the place that we're living in, or the time that we're living in, or our situation, and that kind of spiraling DNA type form that comes up from that slice is really about the energy that's released and the growth that happens when we allow change to happen in our life, or when we cause change to happen in our life. The sculpture that I created, entitled Gateway, as almost as a meditational piece, I wanted people to stand behind it, to look through the window, to think about all the things that brought them to this point, to this place in their lives, as they stand there, looking forward through this window. And I want them to stop and meditate upon their lives, what has happened or is happening, and then hopefully, if there is a moment of epiphany that can be achieved, understanding it all as much as we can, they would then achieve, with that knowledge and power, the ability to energetically move forward into the next cycle of their experiences. And that's really what that piece is about. It's just about being there, understanding why you're there, looking through that window, kind of looking into the future, and then deciding to move forward. And that is what and how I created the shape. in terms of the central axis moving in towards that center window and the simple flow that moves forward from that sculpture. I did originally start with a photograph of a window when I first started creating photographs. That was one of the first photographs that I considered a piece of artwork that I created. And I've always loved that piece, and I have it over my mantle in my living room. But the theme of a window into the world is something that I definitely continue to use. For example, in that sculpture Gateway, there is that central window that one looks through and visually crosses as they move forward into their lives. I also think from another way of looking as a window, less graphically, that art is a window into, or art acts as a window for a lot of people in terms of experiencing life in a different way. A lot of people, or I guess some people, will experience a piece of artwork and they say that it was a life-changing experience, whether it be when they went to see a ballet performance and they had never seen a ballet and they realized what movement and dance could really do for them. Or I even had somebody come into my home studio when I lived in Tucson, and he was a 24-year-old from New York City who had not even entered an art museum before for some reason, and had never seen, or had told me had never seen an actual oil painting. So I told them to, they asked me if they could touch it, and I said, please put your hands all over the painting. I was so surprised that somebody had never experienced art, I guess who just never experienced it, and that they were so excited and so inspired by actually interacting with a piece of artwork. And although that's not something that we encourage, to put your hands all over an oil painting, I thought it was important for that person to do so, and their interest in art then increased, and they then went to look at some museums, and I brought them to look at exhibitions, and they said it was very inspirational for them in terms of just being inspired by art and by life and the joy that it brought to them. I hope that as people interact with one of my pieces of sculpture, that it will give them the opportunity to sit back and meditate, and that it will imbue them with energy and the strength and the opportunity to look forward into their lives and to grow and to feel more free and creative, and that when they look at something that is creative and playful and beautiful, that it will give them that energy to be more creative in their own lives and for more positive things to happen in their own life. I think that's really the experience that I'm trying to share with people, and I'm trying to share that positive energy and I guess the positive outlook that I have towards life in creating my artwork. I think the presence of art in our home environments or in public settings really allows people that chance to stop and meditate. I think that we all have very rushed lives, mostly in our present consumer productive society that we have today. We don't take a lot of time to sit back and just think. I think that a lot of us, or a lot of people, do sit back and stop and watch TV. But they're given information, and it's about other things. I think that when one is being presented or confronted with a piece of artwork, they're also being presented or confronted with a moment or a situation where they can stop and think about how they feel themselves, whether it be their own life or how they feel towards a piece of artwork. But that experience with a piece of artwork will allow them the time to stop and meditate and grow as a result of taking that time out. So it's a really, I think of artwork as a really strong, motivational, energetic force in our society. And I really hope to take part in helping the general public grow, or the private art viewing audience enjoy their lives. And so that's why I continue to create artwork. I feel that I have this duty or this need to create work that will hopefully benefit people and it definitely benefits me in terms of creating the work in itself.